FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary is in New York City today on a listening tour. He's going to be meeting with CEOs of major pharma and biotech companies. Dr. Makary joins us on set before he does that. And welcome. It's great to see you.
Great to be with you all.
So let's talk a little bit, first of all, why you're here in New York City. Who are you going to be speaking to? What's the point? Or I guess listening, not speaking.
Yeah, so look, there's a lot of things we need to do at the FDA. And so to inform us, we want to meet with executives, with pharma leaders, and we want to hear from them because I believe in listening, and we got to understand where in the user interface is the system broken. We're trying to ask the big questions. Why does it take over 10 years for a drug to come to market? Why do we have idle steps in the entire approval process? Do we really think if you have the cure for breast cancer, there should be long waiting periods where the application is sitting on a desk? Why do we apply? Why do we have people apply after every phase? Preclinical, IND, phase 1, phase 2. Can we run more continuous trials? So when we listen to the CEOs, we learn so much. Like one of the big pieces of feedback that's come up in the other 4 CEO listening sessions has been communication. If they can have a couple 15-minute calls with the scientific team, that can save them a year of guesswork. Yeah. So we don't want the FDA to be a black box. That's why we're releasing all of our decision letters so people can see exactly how the review team thinks. Because markets want predictability, and the companies want predictability, and the drug makers and scientists want to know how to design drugs knowing what the review team is going to think.
I mean, I think that's so important, and it's definitely something we hear from industry as well. There have been some concerns in the last month, though, about the complete response letters that were issued for 2 drugs, Replimune and Capricor. Both those companies said that they were caught off guard, that it seemed like things were changing. Standards were changing at the FDA. They thought they were following the guidance they were given. Can you explain what happened there and maybe how that gets fixed?
So I can't discuss any individual product or individual decision of the FDA, but look, the process should be transparent, and it's not always perfect. Sometimes the reviewers act in their own sort of autonomy and independence. We're trying to create more standardization and create a culture where we have common standards. For example, sometimes we still require routine animal testing when a drug's already been approved in humans and used in thousands of people in Europe. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Because that slows down the process a lot.
That slows down the process. We want to speed up the process, streamline it, modernize it. We're using AI now in our scientific reviews as an organizing tool. And, you know, these applications are gnarly. They're like, can be 100,000 pages. So we're going to introduce a radical concept called a page limit, you know, just like college applicants have. And we want to allow drug makers to get more predictability and insight.
I think about the way the private sector does things and the way the government does things. And I think about DMV or take your pick. And I'm just, does the FDA need more money? Is that always the answer? I think public schools, the money keeps coming in, doesn't make it better. How do you private sectorize the FDA to do more, all the things you're talking about, streamline it, but without just throwing money at it? And you know how bureaucracies work. They don't.
Yeah, and every time there's a problem in government, the answer is always the same. More money, more authority, more people.
But there is criticism that you don't have enough right now.
So there's always going to be that criticism. My job is to do an assessment. And look, I came in right after a reduction in force, and so my job is to make sure that all the scientists and inspectors, and we have about 300 law enforcement officials with guns that go around and check out things like vape stores in our ports to make sure we're safe. We got to make sure everyone has all the resources. To be clear, there were no reductions in force or layoffs of scientific reviewers or of inspectors at the FDA.
There have been some who have left voluntarily after the departure of Peter Marks. And there's been some pushback from industry that says, wait a second, these were the people who were helping us streamline the process before. Now what?
Yeah, so look, I think the FDA does not rest on any one individual, and no one person makes or breaks a scientific division. There's over 1,000 scientists in that division. I've met with the leadership, the team. They're phenomenal. They're going to be strong. The FDA is going to meet all of its targets for review decisions this year. I think we're going to reduce the average time. We may hit a record number of approvals this year. And so the trains are running on time. The FDA is strong, and it's going to continue to be strong. It's one of the greatest brands in the world. So we have a lot to live up to. And you see the pride in the institution. Didn't matter what political party's in power. You see a tremendous pride among the scientists there.
There was big news just last night with the departure of Dr. Vinay Prasad. He had been there as the director of the FDA Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research. He was only there for 3 months. There was a lot that had happened, I would say, just over the last 3 or 4 days where he took some incoming, not the least of which was from the Wall Street Journal in an op-ed that they put out just saying that he was stopping innovation. He was opposed to some of these things. What can you tell us about that? Yeah,
the irony about that Wall Street Journal piece is that some of the drugs they criticized him for were not even in his center. He had nothing to do with them. And he did a tremendous amount of implementation of new policies in the time that he was at the FDA. I think the guy's a genius. He's published 550 scientific peer-reviewed studies in his career. He's 42 years old. So he gave us some of his time. Look, he's got family in California. The commute was brutal. And then when he saw some of these sort of smear pieces, he didn't want to be a distraction. So we're going to continue to talk to him. But we've got tremendous leadership there. Our top drug regulator, by the way, was not that role. Our top drug regulator is filled by this new guy, George Tidmarsh, MD, PhD, double fellowship trained in neonatology and oncology, and led La Jolla Therapeutics. So he is a drug developer himself. I think 7 different drugs he developed himself. He knows the FDA from both sides, and he's an academic with impeccable credentials from Stanford.
What will happen? Who's going to be coming in to replace Dr. Prasad?
So, look, we have a lot of interest from talented people, so we'll take a look at that interest. But we've got George Tidmarsh right now that sits as our top drug regulator.